Hi students, I'm going to go over the answers for the algebraic equations and inequalities quiz that you took. Remember, with your inequalities, you solve them just like an equation. We pretend like the inequality sign is an equal sign when solving. So on one like this, the first thing I would look at is the inequality sign. It does not have a line under it, so we should know that that means it needs an open dot. So we're between H and J. Now that we've narrowed it down, we need to solve the inequality to see which way the arrow needs to go. So we're trying to get x by itself, just like when we would solve an equation right now. It's 5 times x is less than 30. Since it's multiplication, we're going to do the opposite and divide by 5. So that becomes x is less than 6 because 30 divided by 5 is 6. And remember, we only flip the inequality sign if we multiply or divide by a negative number, which we did not in this case. And we've talked about in class, if you're unsure about the direction, just make your sign into an arrow. So now that we know it's between H and J, it should be easy to see that it is choice H for this one. This next one is an old warm-up question. It gave you guys problems back then, and it gave some of you problems on this quiz again. Came back to haunt you, and we don't want that. So let's look at what's happening here. We have 4.536 or 4 and 536 thousandths of an ounce of pills, and those are being divided up into 0.042 or 42 thousandths of an ounce in each bottle. Now that is a really small amount. It's pretty unrealistic, but this is a STAR test question, so that's what you get. And we are trying to figure out how many bottles the pharmacist had to use. So this is our total. We're splitting it up, putting this much per bottle, so we have a division problem here. Now the tricky part is that it has decimals included in it. So I've set up my division problem here. Now when we're dividing with decimals, if the decimal is here under the house, it's fine. We just bring it straight up when we're done. However, if we have a decimal outside, if the divisor is a decimal, then we have to change some things. So we want to make this into a whole number. To do that, we need to move the decimal 3 places to the right. So consequently, I'm going to do the same thing on the inside. So now my decimal point is going to be after the 6 when I do this division. So now I'm thinking of it as 42 going into 4,536. So I'm just going to get rid of some of this extra stuff so I don't confuse myself. That decimal's gone, and now it's over here. Okay. And I've told you guys in class, it's good to draw these lines, especially if you're a little shaky with long division. It just helps you keep everything straight. 42 can't go into 4, so I'm not going to have anything in that place. 42 can go into 45, just one time. 45 minus 42 leaves 3 left over. So now we're going to bring down this 3. Now I'm looking at 42 going into 33. Well, that can't happen. 33 is smaller than 42. So I'm going to add a 0 to that place. Now I get to bring down my 6, and I'm looking at how many times will 42 go into 336. Well, if I round, think about 4. 4 would go into 32 8 times. So I have 42 going into 336, which is pretty close to that. So I'm going to try 42 times 8 and see how that works out. 8 times 2 is 16, carry my 1. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 1 is 33. So that works out perfectly. There's no remainder. And if I look at my answer choices, 108 is an answer choice. So that one should have been choice J. All right, this next one says, which equation has a solution of k equals 6.5? So wherever k is in these answer choices, we would plug in 6.5. Some of these things we can eliminate before we even have to do any work. So if we look at choice F, we have a -3 times a positive 6.5. And we should know from our rules that a negative number times a positive number should give us a negative answer, which is not what they have here. So F is not going to work out. G, a -1 plus a positive 6.5, okay, maybe. H, we have a negative times what we would put in. A positive 6.5 gives us a negative answer, so G and H might be okay. And then J is addition again, so that one might be okay. But just with our multiplication rules, we can get rid of choice F. So now if we look at G, 6.5 plus -1, or -1 plus 6.5, we could rearrange that and do 6.5 minus 1, which would be 5.5, not 7.5. So G is out. Let's look at H. -7 times 6.5 equals -45.5. So I already know if I do a positive 6.5 times a -7, it's going to give me a negative answer. So I'm just going to add that here and then multiply like normal. 5 times 7, or 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 6 is 42. And then add 3 to that, that gives you 45. There is one digit behind a decimal point in the whole problem, so I want the same thing in the answer. And look, that matches up perfectly. If we check choice J really quickly, we can rearrange it. 6.5 minus 2 would be the same thing, and that would give us 4.5, not -8.5. So H in this situation is the best answer. This next one is probably one of the trickiest types of questions. So we're given an inequality. 17.35 times x is greater than 624.60. Now we're looking at our situations to see which one would fit. F says a waitress had received a $17.35 tip. That brought her total in tips to more than $624.60. We should know that if we get a tip, we're adding that to the rest of our money, not multiplying it. So F is no good. G, Brianda made a deposit of $17.35 into a savings account. This brought the total to $624. Again, total. That word is adding. So we would not add our tip or our deposit to what we had. Sorry, we would not multiply it like it is in this equation to what we had. We would add it. So G is out as well. H, a dozen tamales cost $17.35 including tax. How many dozen tamales can a customer buy with $624.60? Okay, that one's close, but in that one, the key word is this. With $624.60, if that's all they have, this is saying we can spend greater than that amount. So that wouldn't work out if this was all the money I had and I'm solving for things that are more than that amount of money. J, Darren earns $17.35 per hour at his job. How many hours does he need to work in order to earn more than, there we go, $624.60. So that's perfect. That goes with our symbol that we have. We should have gotten choice J. Question 5. After 4 new students joined a class, the class had 32 students. Which equation could be used to find the number of students in the class before the 4 new students joined? So we have a certain amount of kids. We add 4 to that. Now we have 32. This one's pretty easy to figure out. If kids are joining the class, we're adding to the total. We're not multiplying. We're not subtracting. So choice D is the one that went with question 5. Most of you got that one. Question 6, the weight of 1 serving of trail mix is 2.5 ounces or 2.5. How many servings are there in 22.5 ounces of trail mix? So this is our total. Each serving is 2.5. We're separating out the servings to see how many we can get. So this is a division problem. So we are going to divide the total amount of trail mix by 2.5. Again, we have a decimal in the divisor, so we've got to move that decimal point, make it a whole number. So now we're looking at 25 going into 225. 25 cannot go into 2. It cannot go into 22. So now we're looking at how many times would it go into 225. I like to think of 25 as a quarter. So we know 4 quarters would be $1.00. So if we have 225, that's 8 quarters and 1 more, or 9. But you can always guess and check your work if you don't like thinking of money. Either way, that would give us exactly 225. So we are going to make 9 servings of trail mix. Okay, this next one is another where we would plug in and check. So we're plugging in 3.4 where P is in each of these and trying to see which one would be true. So our first one is 3p is less than, 10.2. 3p, that would be 3 times 3.4, and that would actually give us exactly 10.2. So F would be true if we had an equal sign, but it's less than symbol, so F is no good. G, 13.6 is less than or equal to 3.9p. So in this one, we would need to multiply 3.4 times 3.9. Okay, so I went ahead and I multiplied 3.9 times 3.4, and I got 13.26, which is not greater than 13.6. So G is out because of the symbol. Next, we would look at H. 5 times 3.4 should be greater than 17.1. And that one is so close. 3.4 times 5 is exactly 17, which is not greater than 17.1. So hopefully J works out. Okay, and I tested out J. 2.5 times 3.4 is 8.5. And that sign says greater than or equal to. So J is our answer. Okay, we have another situation here. So we're multiplying 5.5 times something. F says Ricardo ran 5.5 miles. He ran each mile in 10.75 minutes. What is in the total number of minutes that it took him? In this case, we would have to rearrange the whole equation for that to make sense. It would be 10.75 times 5.5 equals N. So F is out. G, he ran a total of 10.75 miles on Monday. He ran 5.5 in the morning, the rest of miles in the evening. What is in the number of miles Ricardo ran in the evening? That would be an addition problem. So if we had 5.5 plus N, G would work out, but that's not what we have. H, he ran a total of 10.75 miles. He ran 5.5 miles each hour. What is in the number of hours that he ran? So 5.5 miles times the number of hours should give us the total number of miles. That sounds good. And then J, he ran 10.75 miles in 1 week, 5.5 the next. What is in the total number of hours? No, that does not make sense. So H is our answer there. And I'm sorry, I'm going a little fast, but I'm running out of time on the video. Okay, on question 9, the key word we're looking at is meet or exceed her goal. And so if we think about how that symbol would look, the amount that she walks to meet or exceed, that would be greater than or equal to her goal. We're walking at least 18 miles, and she's walking 4 miles an hour. So just knowing the key words and what the symbol should look like, we can narrow it down between F and H. Now, if she's walking 4 miles per hour, that means 1 hour would be 4 miles, 2 hours would be 8, 3 hours would be 12. That does not work with addition. That is multiplication. So choice F is for question 9. Okay, on question 10, we have a big team of workers taking 167.3 hours to do something. A smaller team takes 1.25 times as long. So that means it's going to take them 1.25 times this amount. A lot of us, or most of us, should know by now that that word times means multiplication. So F and G are out. Now we just have to narrow it down between H and J, and the only thing you're really doing is checking the math. So when you set up your problem with multiplication and decimals, you do not need to line up the decimal points. You just set it up as if the decimal points weren't there. We will worry about the decimal points at the end. Okay, and the math does take a lot. It's a lot of numbers, but once you do it, you find out that the math is correct for choice J. And that's the end of the quiz. Have a great week.